Let's look at question 1 here. It asks, which of the following shows 1 cubic unit? I know a cubic unit has 3 dimensions. So I only want to use a figure that has 3 dimensions. D only has 2 dimensions, a length and a width, which means this is just a 2D object or 2D shape. So D is incorrect because it's not a 3D shape. Now I'm going to look for the one that has each length, width, and height represented with the number 1. I'm also looking that it uses the same unit label for each dimension. Let's look at A. I see we have 5 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 5 centimeters. While they do all use the same unit, A is incorrect because it has 5 representing the dimensions. A 1 cubic unit would only have 1 representing the 3 dimensions. So A is incorrect. When I look at C, I see we have 1 foot, 1 centimeter, and 1 foot. This time they did use the correct number, 1, but their units aren't all the same. 2 of them are in feet, 1 of them is in centimeters, so that's what makes this incorrect. They have to be the same units. When I look at B, I can see that they all are in 1 inch. They all have the same unit label, and they are all only 1. So B is our correct answer. Let's look at number 2. It says, which expression could be used to solve for the volume of this figure? I know volume is length times width times height. I can see the length of this figure from side to side is 4. The width from front to back is 8. And the height of it from top to bottom is 6. I need to find an expression that has all 3 numbers being multiplied. C is the only one that has all 3 of my numbers and showing them being multiplied. Let's look at question 3. It asks which expression could be used to find the volume of the figure below. I see in my figure we have a length of 10, a width of 3, and a height of 4. I know volume is typically solved using length times width times height, which means we would use 10 times 3 times 4. However, each of my answer choices only give me 2 values. This means that they're using a base area times a third dimension formula to solve. I know when we use base area, that means we're taking 2 of the dimensions and multiplying them together to get a base area, and then we multiply that product by the leftover third dimension. So let's see which one of these is correct. Let's first try a base area times height formula. If I'm multiplying by height, that means my third dimension, height, is 4. And then we multiply the other 2 dimensions 10 times 3. 10 times 3 would give us 30. So we would have 30 times 4. I don't see 30 times 4 as an answer choice. So let's try base area times width. If I have base area times width, let me rewrite this. If I have base area times width, that means we're multiplying by 3, the third dimension 3, and we are then multiplying 10 times 4 to get the base area. 10 times 4 is 40, so we have 40 times 3. I see 2 answer choices with the numbers 40 and 3, B and D, but only one of these is correct. B is wrong because they're using addition. We don't add the base area plus the width. We need to multiply the base area times the width. So D is our correct answer. This makes sense because we multiplied 10 and 4 to get 40, and then we multiplied that base area by our leftover dimension of 3. Notice how we only multiplied each dimension one time. Let's go ahead and look at our second problem. This one asks us to write two expressions that can be used to solve for the volume of the figure. They want us to use a length times width times height expression, and then they want us to use a base area times height expression. So let's start by using length times width times height to write an expression. First thing I need to do is find the length, width, and height. I know length is from side to side. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 units. I know width is front to back. I have 2 units along the width. And I know height is from top to bottom. We have 1, 2, 3 cubic units along the height. So when I take length times width times height, we have 4 times 2 times 3. That's our first expression that we're going to write in the first box. Now we need to write a base area times height expression. If they want a base area times height expression, that means I'm going to use the length and the width to find the base area. My length is 4, my width is 2. 4 times 2 gives me 8. We multiply 8 by that third dimension, our height. We have 8 times 3. So the second expression we're going to write is base area times height, 8 times 3. Notice that we had multiplied these two dimensions together to get 8 and multiplied it by that leftover dimension, 3. Now, to solve for volume, all we got to do is finish the multiplication. I know 8 times 3 is 24. So we have 24 cubic units. With these two problems, we're going to find equivalent expressions that we could use to solve for volume. I want you to look for how I first used the volume formula length times width times height to help me to identify an equivalent expression. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my dimensions. I know length is from side to side. My length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know width is from front to back. I have 2 cubic units along my width. And I know height is from top to bottom. I have 2 cubic units from top to bottom, so my height is 2. I know I could solve this by taking 5 times 2 times 2. But that's not one of the expressions they give us. So I want to find an equivalent expression. I can see in each answer choice, they're using some form of 5 times 2 and doing something with it. So I'm going to use those two numbers in my expression to think this through. I have 5 times 2, and that's being multiplied by 2 more. I know 5 times 2 times 2 means I'm doubling the product of 5 times 2. I know when I'm doubling something, that's the same as repeatedly adding it by itself twice. So 5 times 2 plus 5 times 2 is equivalent to 5 times 2 times 2 because we're taking 5 times 2 and repeating it 2 times. I see this expression, I see 5 times 2 in parentheses twice. I see it in B and D, but only one of those is correct. I need to make sure I choose the one that has the addition symbol in between my parentheses. This makes sense because when I add 5 times 2 plus 5 times 2, that's the same as repeating it we're multiplying by 2. So D is our correct answer choice. Let's look at one more example of this. In the next question, they say, which expression could be used to find the volume of the prism? I see our length is 4. Our width is 2. And our height this time is 3. We know we could solve this by doing 4 times 2 times 3. Now, I'm going to look at the answer choices and think. What part of my length times width times height expression do I see being used in these answer choices? I can see 3 and 2 being repeatedly either multiplied or added or some sort of like being of use. So we're using 3 times 2 in some capacity. So I'm going to focus on 3 times 2 here and what's happening to it. If I have 3 times 2 and I'm multiplying that by 4, that means I'm repeating the product of 3 times 2 4 times. So if I'm repeating it 4 times, that's the same as adding the product of 3 and 2 by itself 4 times. This makes sense because repeated addition is the same as multiplication. I see B is equivalent to the expression that I wrote. This makes sense because 3 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 3. So our answer was B.